When you picture a farm in Stardew Valley, chances are you imagine the standard farm. Many of us started there and some of us still haven't left. But there are actually 7 different kinds of farms, each one providing its own pros and cons. But which one offers the most benefit? I'm Keefinosi with 1UP Binge, and today we'll be ranking Stardew Valley farms from worst to best. For this video, we'll be starting with the worst farm and working our way up to the best. We'll be looking at factors like how approachable the farms are, what perks they offer, and what challenges you'll have to face to set up shop there. This is more of a disclaimer than a rule, but obviously everyone's playstyle is different. We'll be ranking which farms we think have the highest benefits and lowest risks for an average, well-rounded player with a medium amount of experience. That being said, we'll be doing our best to highlight the different advantages offered by even our worst ranked farms, and pointing out which kinds of players would excel on which type of property. If you see your favorite farm is ranked low, don't be offended nor alarmed. We know there are plenty of ways to enjoy your time in Pelican Town. We're just looking at majorities here. With all that said, let's jump into our list. Coming in at our lowest spot is the Riverland Farm. This is one of the few farms that encourages fishing at home. If you adore the fishing minigame, as many players do, you're more inclined to like the Riverland Farm. The land's main perk, after all, is being able to catch river fish in the comfort of your own property. Unfortunately, we don't think it's the best farm for fishing. We'll elaborate on this more later on in the list, but it boils down to the fact that a couple other farms allow fishing as well as more convenience. The only types of fish you can catch on this farm are either river fish or cinder snap forest fish, both of which are already accessible to you and very close to the farm. The fact that it can be outshined in its own major perk doesn't bode well for Riverland Farm. The other drawbacks are subtle but immense. Anytime you save by being able to fish at home is likely cancelled out by how inefficient the farmland is. Riverland Farm features 1,578 tiles, making it the second smallest farm already, and 516 of those are not tileable. This is already a drawback, but when you consider how those tiles are broken up across multiple islands on the farm, you can begin to see the problem. There's a lot of walking back and forth to tend to your crops in the early game, and not a lot of room to expand into more profitable endeavors as time wears on. This farm is an absolute nightmare for completionists in particular, because you'll barely have room for all your crops by the time you get your buildings set up. It's a struggle to fit animals in comfortably, and there are no unlockable shortcuts to make it easier to navigate around your own land. One thing that it does offer is the visuals. While it doesn't count for much on our list, it's worth mentioning that the Riverland Farm is quite aesthetically pleasing. If you're a fishing forward player who is looking for a less maximized but pretty experience, then this is hands down the farm to select. Our second worst spot goes to the Wilderness Farm. Many of you watching are probably really mad that this wasn't the lowest ranked farm. We imagine one or two of you are mad that it wasn't higher on the list. All in all though, it's probably the most polarizing option for getting started. If you love it, you love it, but if you hate it, we're betting you really hate it. One of the charms of Stardew Valley is that you can sort of select your own game. While there are a lot of mechanics offered, you choose what you're going to actively pursue or not. However, the Wilderness Farm undoes a bit of that freedom by making the fighting mechanic come to you. While there are many games where this is standard practice, most players associate Stardew with being more peaceful. On all other farms, you're the one who gets to choose to go to the enemies, not the other way around. For an experienced player, this is obviously not going to be a deal breaker. The enemies that wander on your farm are not so dangerous that you're going to be finding yourself in constant danger. They can, however, be really annoying, especially before you get higher level weapons to deal with them quickly. For a new player, this can be a huge detriment. If you're not in massive danger from the enemies themselves, time is money in those early days, and anyone not familiar with the combat mechanics already is going to be hemorrhaging time trying to get tasks done before 2 a.m. There is an argument in favor of this farm that helps you level your combat skill much faster than you would ordinarily, and while this is technically true, you still have to unlock higher level fighting areas by fighting your way to them, a process during which most players naturally level combat anyway. Even if you're trying to do some sort of combat related speedrun, it just seems like there are more efficient ways to fight. So, with all of our skepticism, you may be wondering why we put it above the Riverland Farm. We did that because, during the day, it's actually a pretty decent farm. It shares a similar design to the standard farm, albeit with a bit less space, but with 2,131 tiles, it's still significantly larger than the Riverland Farm. It's also one of the lands you can go fishing on, because some of that space is taken up by a lake. Your chance of catching trash is still fairly high, but it's worth mentioning that it's an option if you're trying to catch lake fish. We just wouldn't suggest that you do it late at night. Our third worst spot goes to Hilltop Farm. We're wandering into some spicy territory here, but we don't think the Hilltop Farm is that great. It's not terrible, by any stretch of the imagination. However, the big draw of the Hilltop Farm is that it comes with a quarry. This is something that, depending on your style of play, has the potential to be very useful in the early game. You can level mining faster, you'll have easier access to ore for gathering quests, and a near endless supply of geodes. There's a lot of appeal on the surface if you're thinking about going the archaeology route, but unfortunately, this farm doesn't age well. The quarry that's so convenient in the early game quickly becomes obsolete as you get further down in the mines. It's closer, yes, but the ore that you're going to get there isn't as valuable nor as useful as what you can find in the areas of the game that are always designed for mining. It's not even as good as the quarry that gets unlocked later in the game. By the time you have minecarts unlocked, it's barely even closer than those other locations. This is because to get to the quarry on the Hilltop Farm, you still have to maneuver through a series of steps and bridges. Is it hard? No. Is it annoying? Absolutely, especially if you're trying to mine every day. The water is also a drawback on the Hilltop Farm. You're encouraged to begin growing crops at the top of the hill by your house, since much of the other soil is broken up with large stumps that would require upgraded tools to remove. This means that you'll have to go down a level of the hill every time you want to refill your watering can. It's probably the only farm where putting a well in immediately makes sense, and like everything else in the game, that's going to cost money. These are small complaints on their own, but it adds up to be less than ideal. In Hilltop's defense, however, it's worth mentioning that watering aside, the farmland is more efficient than it could be, as it's largely found in blocks. This means that with time and sprinklers, it has the potential to become a lower maintenance location later in the game. Sprinklers and all crafting items may come a bit sooner as well if you're making regular use of the quarry. Right in the dead center of our list is the beach farm. You may be surprised that the beach farm escaped being in the lower half of our list. A lot of players, ourselves included, hate starting on a beach farm with a fiery passion, but in almost the opposite manner of our last entry, the beach farm gets better over time. There are a lot of drawbacks in the early to mid game. The largest one, obviously, is that because you'll be growing crops mostly on sand, you won't be able to put down sprinklers. There's one area of soil that can be unlocked with upgraded tools, but mostly you'll be stuck watering things by hand for longer than would be ideal. As such, starting out on this farm can be a hellish and frustrating experience, but there are perks. One is that we would consider this to be the best fishing farm. Not only is it laid out in a more convenient manner to maneuver, but you're able to catch ocean fish instead of river or lake fish. While you can also fish in the ocean all year without locking anything, you would have to go to the other side of the map to do so. This means that unlike the Riverland farm, the beach farm can save you significant amounts of time if fishing is what you're going for. The fish tend to be better, and there's a chance of getting seaweed instead of trash. If you're trying to do a fishing speedrun, munching on seaweed can actually give you the energy to keep you reeling later into the night. Because you're on a beach, you also have access to beach forageables. Walking around the perimeter of your farm before you leave for the day or before you go to bed is an easy thing to add to your routine that can get you a bit of extra gold most days. It might not seem like much on any given day, but it can add up for a significant boost in your first couple seasons. Then there are the supply crates. You can check for these while looking for other forageables on the beach, and they have the potential to be quite valuable for early play. The frustration of hand watering all your crops seems worth it on the days you find a couple of free survival burgers on your way down to the mines. The cool thing about supply crates is that they evolve with your farmhouse. When buying upgrades for your home, you unlock potential new items to find in the crates when they wash ashore. The last thing that we have to say in defense of the beach farm is that it has the potential to grow more efficient over time. Once you've unlocked the normal soil, you can place down sprinklers for a few on-site crops. With 2,700 tiles, this is the third largest farm in the game, though 1,928 of them are not tileable. This means that there are a lot of places where you're encouraged to build rather than farm, and this makes it a surprisingly efficient option for players who are looking to maximize profits. Since making and aging wine is one of the most popular ways to get very rich, having room where you're encouraged to make a lot of sheds to store your kegs can really set you up for success. We don't love how high the beach farm ended up being, but we have to admit that it can be pretty decent if you stick with it long enough. We're giving the title of third best farm to the Forest Farm. This is a lot of players' favorite farm, and it's not hard to see why. Despite being the smallest farm with 1,413 tiles, it's laid out without islands, bridges, hills, or anything disruptive to break up your farmland. Already, we would consider that a desirable feature for any farm. The trees themselves might not seem like a huge draw. After all, trees are one of the few resources it's genuinely hard to run out of in Stardew Valley. You're probably all set on wood, sap, maple seeds, pine cones, and acorns by the time you have your farm cleared. That's all before you realize that you can cut down trees not on your land. Clearing out space on the forest farm puts you in a good position for house upgrades, farm building and construction, and other wood-based repairs, but that's not such a hard position to find yourself in across most farms. The biggest draw, however, is the forageable area on your land. In the southwest corner of your farm, there's a secret woods area that functions like a more efficient version of the other secret woods. If anyone was keeping track, that's double the amount of secret woods for you when you select this farm. Aside from having seasonal forageables, this gives you your own supply of hardwood every day, as soon as you get your axe upgraded enough to collect it. Considering that it's one of the rarest and most valuable building resources in the game, that's enough to make it worthwhile on its own. Not only is the forest farm decent for farming, it really shines for players gearing toward construction or foraging options. And for all these perks, there are virtually no drawbacks. Our biggest complaint about the forest farm is that it could be bigger, but we'd rather have the uninterrupted soil and more space across several small islands. The title of second best goes to the Four Corners Farm. This might be the most controversial ranking in this list because a lot of people will tell you this is the best type of farm in Stardew Valley. Fun fact, if you Google which is the best farm in Stardew Valley, Four Corners Farm is the official answer. We agree, there are a lot of perks. The Four Corners Farm is the second largest farm in the game at 2,952 tiles and gives you a bit of everything on your land. Each of the four quadrants offers something unique. A dedicated farmland, a small pond, a forest, and a small quarry. Without question, this is the most versatile selection. It's the perfect farm for beginners or cooperative save files. The fact that you can do anything means that you can specialize in whatever you want once you're into the game, and you'll have plenty of room to set up different operations on a single farm. But, you know the expression, a jack of all trades, but king of none. Our biggest complaint about the Four Corners Farm is that while you get a bit of everything and it leaves the game very open-ended, you don't get the optimized experience in any one field. If you're playing for a single feature of the Four Corners Farm, then there's probably already been a farm on this list that would suit you better. If you're only here to fish, for example, why would you not take a farm that specializes in fishing? If the quarry has you excited for this option, you already know that Hilltop has a better quarry featured. While that makes it ideal for multiplayer, when players are interested in different gaming aspects, there is often a better option for a seasoned single-player run. If you know your options and are looking for a specific experience, you might be better off choosing a farm that suits your specific goals for the run. Otherwise, you'll find yourself rushing to get through tool upgrades to unlock the Four Corners shortcuts and save time walking each day because you wanted the option of a quarry that you never use anymore in the late game. If you still want to experience some versatility and have options while making your early game days less frustrating, we still have one option left. Speaking of which, our prestigious award of Best Farm goes to the Standard Farm. Chances are that if you're going the completionist route, the default farm was probably the best option for you all along. It may only be the second most versatile, but we can say easily that it's the top pick when it comes to farming. That counts for a lot for us because that's the one thing your farm should be able to do. Every other aspect of the game already has a dedicated area or two for the players who love it, but only you can choose to dedicate your land to raising animals and growing crops. The standard farm is the best at those things with 3,427 tiles, most of which are uninterrupted blank canvas for you to play with. From day one, you can access the farm from all three exits. This means you can go to the north, south, or eastern parts of the map without having to unlock anything, nor navigate your way through a maze of bridges, rivers, hills, or rocks. While it doesn't have a place for you to fish, mine, or forage, it has so much empty space for you to choose the direction of your farm. You're not locked into a single path, and you're set up for key efficiency right from the beginning. You have space, you have soil, and everything on your land is already at your fingertips. The absolute ease of access offered by this layout can also save you time and hassle, meaning that if you want to have a fishing day, mining day, etc., you have enough time saved after your daily farm chores that you should still have plenty of time to walk, minecart, or teleport to an area that would have been better for your needs anyway. Plus, if you do begin the game with a dedicated farming path, the standard farm gives you all the room you need to succeed. This allows you to grow and potentially invest in things that would allow you to travel to those secondary locations much faster. We can't say it's the right farm for everyone's personal preferences, but there are few drawbacks and little to regret when choosing the standard farm, not to mention the nostalgia that this layout in particular gives to so many players. It's a great farm for beginners, completionists, and experienced profit maximizers alike. That's been it, our rankings of the Stardew Valley farms from worst to best. We know you guys are probably going to disagree with some of our choices, and we can't wait to hear which farm you like best and why in the comments down below. And if you need a one-up, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching.